so I wanted to record a short video and talk about double note technique. So specifically double sixths or even double thirds. Okay, and it's going to be kind of a brief video. We're not going to go into really too in depth of the basic sort of double third technique too much, but we're going to talk about it in the context of this Moszkowski concert etude that I've been practicing, but kind of some tips that are more general about just double note playing, whether it's, you know, legato sort of technique, or if it's more just more staccato or something. So this passage that I played through here, we have this passage where we have all these double notes in the right hand, double sixths, and they're not all double sixths actually. Some of them are thirds, fourths, etc., but for the most part. So it's more of a general sort of analysis here. But the thing that I want to talk about is arm movement. So the thing that makes double note technique hard, or most techniques, let's say, that are very difficult, like even repeated note, the problem is arm movement, okay? Whenever we play, we tend to, you know, focus on the fingers and the arm doesn't really move much. So specifically with this passage from this Moszkowski, we have this, all of these double sixths, and then of course, that's not a sixth, okay? That's a fourth, and then those are kind of like, you know, something a little different here, but that's kind of the context, okay? So the problem is that my arm needs to be in a different position for this double sixth than it does in this double sixth, and still this one is a different position, different position, different position, different position. So that makes this very complicated. One of the things that's really important, and this is just a very general sort of technique tip, is that we have to let go. We tend to grip things with the fingertips. So if I try to do that too much, it's going to make this impossibly difficult to play. And someone will say, well, yeah, but you're playing it kind of non-legato, so that makes it easier. Well, even if I'm playing it which I haven't practiced that, it's still the same basic idea. Yes, I'm not just lifting on each note, but it's the same kind of idea. My arm has to shift in the same way, and I have to let go of notes. I'm not going to try to connect both notes. In fact, when we start playing fast, though, I'm actually not really going to connect the notes. They're going to be almost non-legato. But because I'm playing really fast, you're not going to hear it. So that's just a general tip. We have to know when to let go. Okay? Now, you'll notice here, I start with this sixth, and my arm goes up, then it has to come back down. And you'll see that generally speaking, my arm is going to travel down and then up. And that's important because that's the direction that the notes are going. And that's necessary to have. But if that's all I'm doing, it's not quite going to work. So you'll notice here, I kind of go in a little bit, in, and then in here again. So what I do is I think about what feels comfortable. If I don't have any in and out movements, so here, for instance, it almost feels like a little bit of a circle there. Oops, sorry. So it feels like a little circle here. And then this has to come in and almost like that. There's almost a little bit of a circle shape, but it's very subtle. Can you see that? Okay, so I start with this. And then here, I come in, and then almost like a little circle here. But wait, there's more. So there's the arm traveling down, but there's also a little bit of shaping movements, both in and out, as well as almost like a circle shape. So I come here. It's almost shaped the same way that a scale would be. Oops, sorry, let me try it again. So see how there's a little bit? And that's just to get my arm to be behind my fingers. Of course, when you play fast, it's much more subtle, okay? It's the same thing here. And some movements will be more obvious than others, okay? So there's all of that happening. Now there's also rotation. Here, I'm rotating my hand this way, because this is a much more comfortable position where my hand is tilted than if it's flat. See that? It's just a little bit, rotate that way. I'm this way. And I kind of come this way so I can come rotate back. So it's kind of like a little bit of this the whole time. Oops, kind of rotates back, right? So there's a little bit of rotation there. It's critically important to have all of those movements in there. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Because my arm is not going to be in the right position, my hand's not going to be stabilized, my fingers won't be stabilized, I can't properly distribute the weight. So I have to have, oops, sorry. Same thing on this little passage, it goes up. I'm going to rotate this way, sort of throw my hand up there, and then continue so I can rotate back to my thumb. I recently posted a short where we talked about how the thumb always has a little bit of rotation. That's a good example there. I rotate this way to come back. Now I'm making these movements pretty big so you can see them, but obviously the faster and faster you go, the smaller they'll be. So if I play it a little faster, you don't really see almost any of that movement. You see more movement here, and that's because I have more time to do that. So usually if you take, a pianist who has really, good, healthy technique, and you slow their playing down rather, you'll see a lot of these movements, okay? So critically important, my arm moves up the keyboard a little bit, okay? And then it moves down, but in a little bit. Moves down. See how my arm is in a completely different position every time. Just like on these double thirds. If I want to properly stabilize my fingers and hand, make sure that my arm is behind those fingers so my muscles don't have to engage, hold the structure up, or work hard to keep the keys down, I can't be in the same position. So I move out to the fifth finger. And there's a little bit of circle in there because that feels much more natural than just going straight across. My fourth finger has more trouble there, okay, because it has to work a little harder. So, and here the same thing. So you'll see there's always motion. I think yesterday or the day before, I posted a video about kind of analyzing a little clip of Yuji Wang playing the Liszt, Schubert, the transcription of Gretchen at the spinning wheel. And I talked about how the movement goes all the way back to the shoulder. There always has to be this kind of dynamic relationship in the same way that when we walk, your body moves from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head. So if I want to play double thirds well, my arm overall has to shift, but you'll notice that there's rotation in there. Okay? See that? But it's not always just laterally. Sometimes that in and out movement makes that feel much better because my position of my wrist is changing for the length of my fingers, etc. So if I try to play this in exactly the same position, it feels very awkward. Here, wrist a little higher just to give support to that fifth finger. Right? So the whole point is that this arm motion is critically important, and without it, that passage or many others throughout the course of this Moszkowski etude are just virtually impossible. I mentioned repeated note technique. Right? Okay? So I'm using rotation. But it needs to have a little in and out movement. Okay, if it doesn't have that, it's really difficult. Okay, but that makes it feel really easy. And I actually really haven't even practiced. I haven't even really practiced it that much, or repeated note technique in general. Makes it so much easier. Rotation. So I'm rotating the whole time. Okay, critically important. Obviously a different example, but another technique that's known as very difficult. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I hope these examples were helpful to kind of see how we apply this to a piece of music that's quite difficult, quite virtuosic. But if you have any questions or would like to see more follow-up tutorials on this idea, leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.